So we've heard from the political parties as well as from the analysts, but what's the public saying about the elections on social media? Joining me in the studio is Ditshego Media CEO, Tebogo. Ditshego, good to have you with us.
Thanks
nice to see you again. What's been said? I should imagine it's been pretty busy out there.
Yes, I think this is exciting times for us on social media. It's an indication that South Africans' democracy has improved and it's maturing. I think also we have unrealistic expectations, and I'll tell you why. In 1994, we had a voter turnout of over 86%, and I think a lot of people expect that to be consistent over the years. So on social media, you're seeing a lot of people shocked that the voter turnout is around 64% currently. It is a cause for concern because you are seeing a reduction in 18 and 19-year-olds, but if you compare it to global standards, I mean, the United States,
there too, aren't we?
Yeah, it's around 58% in the last elections. So as your democracy
matures, that politicians are failing, right? I mean, people are losing their trust in them.
It may not be that politicians are failing. That's not the only reason why voter turnout has decreased. I think it's also around political education. Now, a lot of voters don't understand or may not appreciate what is necessary and sufficient, and I'll explain that. So they may know that speaking out and voicing out their opinions is necessary, but it's not sufficient. We need to take concrete action.
All right. So social media, from an education point of view, clearly not enough was done to get those to the polls.
I think there's another aspect. The weather also played a bit of a role in discouraging people from voting. A lot of people.
Come on.
Absolutely.
Okay. Take the umbrella, put on the warm jacket if necessary.
But I mean, the weather shouldn't stop you, because if you look at how we got to where we are today, there's a lot of different things like the possibility of death and imprisonment that people faced for our freedom. So that is not a good excuse.
Okay, so the youth, I mean, really bad turnout. That is not acceptable. Yeah. They were very expressive and passionate on social media. So how do we get the two together? I know you say that education is important, but what were you hearing from them on social media?
I think one thing that is encouraging is that young people are voicing out their opinions more on social media, and we are getting to a point where people are tolerant of different views. I mean, that is how we get closer to the truth, and that is how we grow as a country.
So we've still got a long way to come in that regard, haven't we?
Absolutely. And the problem is now, voicing out your opinion is not enough. There are so many other things you need to do within the democracy to ensure that it works for all of us.
And also, sadly, you get slammed down on social media, particularly Twitter, don't you, if you express a view which is possibly not acceptable to somebody else. How do we encourage better conversations and more understanding? I mean, you say it's got better, but how do we improve that so that we are more active in the next electoral process?
I think the conversation has to start within the household, and that is how we resolve most of our social ills. What are we teaching our children? You know, that our society becomes what it is currently. For the tolerant views, you will see that they are increasing, where you are having people who are free to come out. But we also need to stop the clamping down on people who have opposite opinions or different opinions from you.
So what interesting stories did you get from yesterday? I should imagine there must have been some amusing ones too.
Well, unfortunately, you know, comedy is sometimes also to the detriment of another party. But you know, the Saudis party, the African Content Movement, is not doing that well in the elections. I mean, when it was at around 19% of the voting that had counted, they had less than 1,000 votes. And you had some people saying that they got more votes in the SRC election than he got nationally.
So surprised, eh?
Yeah. So it's quite an issue. And I think people are now seeing that social media, especially polls on social media, are not as scientific as they would like them to be. So you would have seen that the EFF did win practically 80% of the polls on social media, and a lot of people expected that to translate in the elections, and that is where we need to understand sampling. You know, sampling on social media is very biased.
Do you think it gives people courage to say something, but in actual fact, you know, it's not really what I believe, but when I go into that voting booth, I'll say something else?
Well, some people don't even say anything. So you'll find that a lot of the vocal people have said that they will vote for a particular political party, and then the majority kept quiet and just expressed themselves through actions.
And did you see more sophistication when it came to, because we asked a lot of voters to send us their pictures and their video recordings, and we were bombarded with some amazing stuff. Do you feel that people are getting more confident in that regard of experimenting more on social media, not just sort of banging out the odd tweet or two?
Well, I think ENC has done a great job. I mean, that is a very good campaign, and I think it captured the imagination of many people and worked with capacitating ENCA. From a perspective of being more creative, I'm not seeing that creativity coming through. I think there's a lot of more things that could be done, especially when it comes to appealing to the township vote and the rural vote. I think there's a lot of different things. Some could be heartwarming and some could be very comedic that they could have done, to express themselves and to sell their manifestos on social media.
Tebogo of Ditshego Media, thank you very much. Good to get your view of what is happening on social media, clearly very important in this time. 6 arrests, a number of protests and some delays. The voting experience in KwaZulu-Natal. Let's get a live update on vote counting from Supermandla Gorge, who is there.